operational, safe, and so on and so forth. Also, so an overall financial comparison, which I've included a spreadsheet comparing 24 to 25, you can see that our operating revenue increased by about $4.4 million. The biggest part of that was $3.8 million was the increase in the personal property taxes, mainly from the 5.9 mil operating levy, because this is the first full year of collections. So we passed it in November 23, so fiscal year 24, you only saw half of that levy coming in. As taxes are collected January to December, we run July to June. And so fiscal year 25 was the first full year of seeing that levy dollars come in. And then also, because of the reappraisals in the city, which came in a lot higher than before, that's probably about $500,000 that we picked up on our inside millage. So the combination of those two show where we have increased our revenues by that $4.4 million. Operating expenditures increased about $4.9 million, mainly personnel services about $2.4 million, and another $1.45 million in benefits costs. Purchase services also increased. A big part of that is now we're paying for Chromebooks. ESSER was used to cover Chromebook costs for the last several years, so now we have a couple of the leases that we're paying for, which are going into the general fund. So overall, the district's expended $760,000 less than the received, so we're operating in the black, so that increases our end of the year cash balance to the $14.6 million, which I mentioned earlier, or roughly 3.5 months of expenditure. So obviously we're in a good financial position as we end the year. We kind of use that 60-day or 2-month period, but now we're at 3.5. So financially, we're in solid position. And the other spreadsheet is the second one, just kind of showing a 5-year history, comparing from fiscal year 21 through 25. So you see our revenues are about 18% greater, but you can see our expenditures grew by 24%. So it's kind of always the thing in school finance, you get a levy passed, but your expenditures keep increasing, so you go that 5-6 year period, which we've been able to do, then you have to look for new money as your expenditures will continue to grow. So that's kind of in a nutshell the financial report for the month of June, and also for the fiscal year 25. Oh, yeah, that was a good while ago. I forget the Energy for Education program. Basically, it was kind of more of a watchdog to make sure lights were turned off and those types of things. I think it's a combination of things. Now this year we're going to see, hopefully, kind of entered into a new electricity contract, and hopefully we'll kind of see our costs be a little more controlled. Again, it's the costs keep increasing. Utilities have just been increasing. And our usage between the air conditioning, we put LED lights in, so we're working everywhere we can to conserve the energy. The air conditioning, that's one of the things that's going to just help raise the cost. And they typically do your demand readings in the summer when you're going to be at the highest usage. And so once they do your demand readings, they kind of set your rate then for the year.
Just one other comment. Part of that is the high school. Quite honestly, we can never close it down, or it's hard to not air condition portions of the building because it's used so much, and it's not just the schools. A lot of that is city programming, and so there's a cost associated with being good partners with the community and hosting all those programs, and that's part of the cost. Is we do have increases with air conditioning and maintaining all those services. We can do a better job of sort of closing down some of the other buildings and reducing costs there. It's extremely challenging at the high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah, so they'll be obviously monitoring that as the year goes on, so we'll see how that works out. Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Okay, Exhibit D2 is a then and now, and this is for LLA therapy, and this is for services which were needed for ESY. So different special education services that they provide, and the purchase order wasn't, processed before those services were received.
Okay, Exhibit D2, resolution to approve the then and now state. Any motion, please?
Moved. Second?
Any questions? Mrs. Paulson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
And finally, D3, this is advances, and 2 advances are being made, one into food service. So obviously, we still have to have payroll costs and other costs throughout the summer, as the pays are stretched over the summer. So, and obviously, no revenues coming in July and into August, as no lunches are being served. So we need this to kind of start the year off. Then as the lunches, students come back and revenue is generated, then the advance will be paid back. And the other is athletics. And again, we typically have to advance into athletics to cover these costs, as Dr. Milsatich kind of explained on the pay to participate. That should hopefully help, offset the amount of the advances that need to be issued to, make sure that at least it's running through in positive throughout the year.
Exhibit D3, resolution to approve appropriation amendments. Chair moves. May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All right, Mr. Paulson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
That concludes my last report. And I just, again, want to thank the board for everything over the years. Obviously, Pam and Steve have been, and Mike, the 2 are newer members, but everything that you guys have done and been, great to work with. Dr. Milsatich, Mary sitting here in the front row. Don't cry,
You're going to get
Mary.
her crying again, Bill.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody. It's been a good 26 years, so time to move on, and time for Mr. Schiraldi to take over. He'll be giving the report next month, so.
I wonder how many times I'll call you Mr. Paulson.
At least once. Next month, for sure.
All right, moving on to new business. We have Exhibit E1A, a resolution to accept gifts and contributions. May I have a motion, please?
Moved. Second?
Okay, Lori Krasinski for donating 9 yoga mats, 15 yoga blocks, and 15 yoga stacks, so $200 to the high school health and beauty departments. Any comments? Mr. Paulson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Resolution is approved. And if it's okay with everyone, I'll take the personnel resolutions together as one. And do them in a motion. Exhibit E1B1 is a resolution to accept resignations and retirements. Exhibit E1B2 is a resolution to award supplemental contracts to district personnel. Exhibit E1B3 is a resolution to approve the introductory appointment of support staff. Exhibit
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Acom? Mrs. Click?
Yes.
And Mr. Sabolsky?
Exhibit E1C is a resolution to approve a plan for completion of makeup days via virtual access. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Would you like to just take a minute and?
Sure. So we are required to have basically a virtual plan for makeup days on file that is agreed upon with administration and our teachers union. As you can see, I've signed that, and also AEA President Shelley Durda has signed that. And it's essentially the same plan that we've had for a number of years. Really, the only change is that we did add one more calamity day, so that would be 6 prior to the asynchronous virtual learning days. And then there still would be days 10 through 14 before we would make up days in June. Obviously, we know no student, parent, teacher is excited about makeup days in June. Want to make sure we have those in place. But we also, you want to make sure we give ourselves some space for some of those calamity days to happen as they have. Actually, I think last year we had 5, so we did come close to that 6. So we did make that adjustment, just add one more day there. But other than that, it's the same plan. That if we needed it, which we have not yet, if we need those asynchronous days, this is essentially the plan, that the lessons would be pushed out and there would be asynchronous work throughout the school day.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Acom? Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky?
Resolution E, exhibit E1D is a resolution to adjust student fees as we discussed earlier in the pay to participate. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky? Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Acom?
Exhibit E1E is a resolution
Mhm.
to approve the updated policy manual. May I have a motion, please?
Moved. Second.
Are there any comments or questions? Thanks to all those who worked on this, and then we have more updates coming down the road, but that's okay, now we have a clean start. Mrs. Kelsey, please come forward.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom? Mr. Sabolsky? Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Exhibit E1F is a resolution to approve the bus stops for the 25-26 school year. May I have a motion? Second. We're getting close when we see bus stops. Kelsey, please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Acom? Mr. Sabolsky? Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Exhibit E1G is a resolution to approve the final budgets for activity accounts for 2024-25. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Mr. Dawson, will you just tell us when?
Yeah, sure. Now, these are, obviously, you'll see one for each particular building. So these are all the different, whether it be 200 account student activity, some are the school support, public school support 018, Rotary. So these are what they did out of each of these accounts for the last fiscal year. So you could see where the money was spent, how the money came in, and that obviously they all have positive balances in them. 1 or 2 of them at the high school level, you know, we sometimes have to make advances into them. But by and large, that covers all of that. And so this is kind of a recap of all those particular funds, how they were, how the revenue and the expenses were incurred for last year. Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabolsky? Mrs. Mahalis? Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Exhibit E1H is a resolution to approve the statements of purpose and budgets for activity accounts for 2025-26. May I have a motion, please? Chair seconds. Do you want to have?
Yeah, basically, you just approve what happened last year. So this is basically setting the budgets for this year. And by and large, what the budgets are going to match up, relatively the same as, where did the money come from and how the money's going to be spent. Again, most of them, depending upon what the thing is, various donations may go into them. Your your school support like 018, for instance, at the high school, that's all the parking passes. They generate revenue from that. And then, and again, how the money will be spent. So this is just, last year's what we did, this is telling you what we're planning to do, or they're planning to do. Yes, Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski? Yes. Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis? Mr. Akam?
Move. I know this is involves a confidential student issue, but just within reason, a little explanation of what this is about.
Yes, absolutely, happy to do that. So sometimes there are situations in which there's a disagreement between the district and a student's family pertaining to how they're educated. And if those disagreements escalate, sometimes there are attorneys involved and agreements that can be mediated or have to go to due process. This one did not go to due process, it was mediated. But in those instances, we have to file an insurance claim if the costs or the cost of attorney's fees would exceed a certain amount, $10,000 in our case, which it actually did not in this situation. But we just need a resolution essentially to make sure we pay costs associated with that mediated agreement and attorney's fees, all that is not covered by our insurance. So obviously it's confidential, and so it has to be pretty generic.
Mr. Akam? Yes. Mrs. Mahalis? Yes. Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes, thank you. So this is kind of ironic considering that we just approved the whole brand-new policy manual and we already have a first review change. So as is typical, in order to change a board policy, typically we have 1 month it is a discussion item, for review, and then the next item, it would be up for a vote. And the reason why we wanted to do this tonight, we meaning Mr. Schiraldi and I, is because we couldn't approve it until August. And one of the things that Brian would like to do, and I'll actually, if you want to go to the podium, I'll turn it over to you since I know that you'd like to explain this, is that we feel that it's too restrictive to have our current credit card amount at $3,000 per card. And it's much lower than what most districts have, and so that's why we are proposing that it be set to $20,000 per card. Not to say that they all will be. He will monitor that, we will monitor that, and some will still have the same balances, but some would need more. So go ahead, Brian. I know you wanted to add a little bit more to that discussion.
Yeah, so as I've been doing some work days here, I've had meetings with various people, one of which was the athletics department, and one of the things they brought up was credit cards, so I started reviewing how we utilize them, and it brought me to the board policy where it states a $3,000 per card limit. So then I just started looking at other districts in our area. I know my current one at Youngstown has an overall limit of like $600,000. Other schools have like, yeah. I think Solon's had like 800,000 or something crazy. So there's some wild ones out there, but common one I found was like a per card limit of, between 10, 15, 20,000. So I think since we have the per card limit established, adjusting that to 20,000 will allow us to do things. 3,000 is just not. I talked to Bill about it. That was established pretty early on when you guys started using cards, which is understandable. But in the current day, they're starting to be used more and more, and 3,000 just isn't sufficient to be able to, you're having to use multiple cards sometimes, and coordinating that could be a mess. So to be more efficient, raising that per card limit to 20,000, like Paul said, that doesn't mean every card's gonna be 20,000. I still administer them. Only certain ones are gonna have a $20,000 limit. The majority of them are gonna be less than that. But it gives us some more flexibility to be able to make, some of the bigger purchases that we need to via credit card, which is just becoming more and more common in this day and age. So this gives us that flexibility, but like Paul said, we wanted you guys to review it, ask any questions you may have before we actually ask for a vote in an actual change.
So common examples could be like your building secretaries doing tons of ordering this time of year. $3,000 is nothing. They'd run up against that limit pretty quickly. If we're paying for a conference or something like that, travel, sometimes we've had issues. We're trying to use district cards for athletic purchases related to things out of the camp account. So for example, football team is a prime example. Throughout 1 month, they may use $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 just for meals, for team meals. We can't put that on one credit card. So that one during the fall may have to be raised just so that we can buy food for the kids that's coming out of their camp accounts. So I think those
Yeah,
are probably
and
the prime examples.
Paul,
Hiring all these new teachers this summer, the number of things we have to send to AP institutes where they go out of state training, multiple days in hotels and things
Yeah.
like that. And then we're asking them to put that on their own credit cards and then having to reimburse, so that becomes more money coming and going. So it's just cleaner to be able to pay for this on our own as opposed to up there paying for a flight, now
Yep.
we're reimbursing them another month or 2 months later. So this is just be a lot smoother.
which is a great point because it starts to pull away from reimbursing, for personal expenditures. The goal is for the funds to come directly from the district, whether it be a purchase order check or, the credit card. So raising these limits allows us to get away from more of the reimbursements and it coming directly from the district, which is preferable.
So for clarification, it doesn't change like the policy and procedure of using a card, just simply raises the limit on
Correct.
those cards?
Yeah,
Correct.
if you look at this, nothing else has changed except for it's going from 3,000 to 20,000. That's it. Yes, yeah, we would not vote on this until August. Do you mind if, yeah, I would love to start. So we added this as a discussion item. Obviously, just quick recap, not going all the way back through the entire recap, but going back to last month in June, TDA did present on the 4 different potential options moving forward. Then I know after that meeting, they provided folders with more in-depth information, prices, what was involved in those plans. And so I was hoping to have a discussion this evening and try to understand the board's individual perspectives and, group consensus, because in order for me to move forward, for us to move forward, I kind of need to know where the board stands and what they think is, the best path in terms of addressing our facility issues. Obviously, we have some very aging facilities that are, quite frankly, some of them are crumbling, and we do have capacity issues, especially at the K through 5 buildings, as we've documented. So these 4 plans are potentials, whether it's the old master plan, whether it's sort of the elementary bus garage plan, we'll call it the addition plan, or just addressing what we're calling, the triage list. But as you can see from this information, the triage list, we have millions of dollars simply in paving, and driveways, and roofing, and HVAC, just projects that really just must be done in terms of an investment in our future, the buildings in the district. So I am looking for the board's perspective, consensus, and direction so that we can take this and move forward in the next year or so, and we'll open it up to you to talk about the pros and cons of each, and what your thoughts are on direction moving forward.
I'll start. I think the feedback that we received based on the last effort was to focus on the essentials.
I agree.
Mhm.
And when you say that to me, the essentials are not only the obvious, which is building credit,
Mhm.
Those are the things in my mind, that when you look at those things that are on the triage list, you're seeing things related to heating and air conditioning. And not only does that impact comfort, but it impacts air quality as a whole. You're seeing necessary roof replacements. We've all experienced the treachery of some of the parking lots. So I think we have to find, in my opinion, we've got to find a way to address essentials. There are things that are in some of these plans that are non-essential. I think we really spoke very clearly about it in high school. In my mind, I don't know that that's, we can make an argument for essential, right? We've tried, but when we really boil down essential, it's still democratic. And I'm gonna let everybody else talk, but, I would be remiss if I don't take my opportunity also to say that in looking at what was presented to us, I know this was in response to some community pressure, but to include an elective add-on for a new natatorium does not seem essential to me. The costs to build a natatorium are exorbitant. The costs to maintain the natatorium are, for lack of a better term, ridiculous.
And you have experience with that in
I
Solon.
have lots of experience with that. When you build a natatorium, you're usually not, no offense to anybody, but my experience is they're usually not built well. They usually set you up for maintenance issues along the way. And by bringing that, you sort of ensure that future generations are going to have to pay what will be millions of dollars in maintenance costs and repair costs at some point. It just, that's what happens with natatoriums. You can research that across the region. I know there are high schools in the area who have closed their natatoriums, because the cost to maintain them is not feasible. That all said, in talking with folks in the community, I think there's also some confusion in that if we were to get a pool, it would be available and open to the community, it would increase that type of opportunity. I think that's likely not the case. I think that, community access to a pool during the school day, depending on how things are designed, is a security issue. I don't know that you would see a lot of community use out of a pool that's owned by the schools. A better solution to the pool problem is to let the city continue to wrestle with the idea of a community center and implement their plans which do include pools. I served on that subcommittee with the mayor and members of council to develop that plan, which is on the table, has been tabled, it's on the shelf right now, because the city understands that they need to wait for us to determine what direction we're gonna go. We have the property tax problem to wrestle with and to be cognizant of. And the city understands that they can't put a community center in front of the schools. As much as they would like to provide that and think about, asking the community to consider those expenses, that's a reality. The pool is part of that plan, which is better served with the city, because then you can do things like have, Parks and Rec provide programs to the community at all times of the day. Swimming lessons for all kids becomes a reality. A pool is better served as a fixture of the city rather than the schools. That's my opinion, based on my experience, based on the conversations I've had with a lot of people. So, again, I think essentials has got to be the theme of the discussion. What do we deem to be essential? Because no matter what we do, it's a big ask.
Option two
Yeah, I definitely think option one of a new high school, it would just, it's not what the community wants. That was clear from, the way that the vote went the last, election, and what the district needs, and what is on that triage list, and what the community can see. I would be concerned of just simply adding on to the current buildings. I know there's a lot of issues, but I shouldn't say a lot, but concern and some issues that have happened with Harmon, and to just add on there, like what would be the potential hidden costs with that building based on the history of repairs and so forth over the last multiple years. So I do think option two addresses, I think, what the community is saying. It hits a lot of the needs of our district. And really what I would want to make sure we see is a very articulate master plan, so that the community can see what are those issues that are on that triage list, and kind of like a timeline or like a trajectory of how they're going to be addressed and fixed, so that if this issue does go up on the ballot, it's very clear to the voters and the community that this is how the district intends to address those issues with the money that's going to come in for this project. I agree with the whole pool thing. I know people have compelling and convincing arguments for the reason of why they want it, and that makes sense. But pragmatically too, that is just that would be a really tough sell. And I would be concerned of adding that on to another plan, and that be the reason why people would vote against it, unless it could go on as two different issues. But I would be really concerned about that for what it would cost.
I think that is a concern with, with the pool. Sure would be nice, to have that. And I know a lot of people would like that. But we can almost do our entire triage list of $17 million for the cost of a pool. So it's just weighing out the costs and benefits and what truly are needs, what are the essential needs of our district moving forward, just so that we don't have crumbling facilities or, buildings where we have to have trailers. There are folks that do work out sometimes in the weight room, but it's mostly for our athletes. So I would not say that that's a true community facility. It's not like a rec center, where you can open access any of the time. It's used throughout the day for PE classes. It's used to train our athletes. So it really is, for the most part, a school resource for the student athletes.
I'm just going to echo what's previously been said. I agree with option two. I think that addressing the essential needs, the overcrowding, and removing the expense of the trailers, I think is ultimately going to be, meeting our needs on the essentials best. I don't like the idea of adding on to every single building. I know there are always issues when you tie these together and things like that. So I think we'd be setting us up for further issues down the line by doing that more than necessary. And I agree with the moratorium as well. I don't think that that's an operational cost that we should be burdening ourselves with.
But I feel the same way. I'm talking to many here that are employees, and I believe that was the original option, original choices that was selected on the survey. Adding on to the other facilities, knowing Harmon with the foundational problems in the past, I think it's too risky. One thing I'm curious about is, as a district, and I know Roberta was looking at the time, but the property next to Miller School in Layton.
Yeah. We looked into that. None of it is available or large enough to really do any type of major construction. Yeah, it wouldn't. I wish. We really are kind of landlocked, and we have no valid options, which is why we ended up trying that campus approach in the first bond issue behind the high school, which, there were a lot of concerns about putting it in the middle there, and concerns about losing practice fields. So in option 2, essentially, we would just keep the existing property, sort of flip spots for the bus garage and the grade 1 through 3 building, and maintain that property to essentially remove those two crumbling structures and replace them. But yeah, unfortunately, we just don't have many options. Wish we did.
Yeah, the option two still provides us an opportunity not to have a concrete canvas. You start adding
Mhm.
on these
True.
buildings, less and less green space, less and less field space.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be an advantage. We would maintain all that field space, because we would have to add on, the board office would have to, well, go here, out back here, but this is just concrete already. And then we just add a little bit on the backside of Miller, but it really doesn't impact much of the green space, field space, or practice space. That'd be an advantage of option 2.
There is that small addition.
There is.
Option at,
Mm-hmm,
a small addition to this building
mm-hmm.
to allow for the education offices. If I'm remembering it correctly, the phasing plan for option 2 was such that kids could stay at Pratt while construction of the new building occurs. Then they could move into the new building and the rest of the site plan.
Yeah, correct. So that is an advantage. Obviously, we'd have to add on to Miller, which that's not a problem for kindergarten and pre-K to remain there. We would have to add on here, so the board office could essentially be abandoned to get over here. And then we would be able to build that new school. We'd have to temporarily, move the bus garage potentially, or just, figure out a spot for the personnel there and the buses. But yes, we would build that school, move them directly into it, grades 1 through 3, which is obviously advantageous. You don't want to have to temporarily displace students or rent out, facilities for a couple of years.
I thought I remember them saying build the transportation portion first.
That is something that we've talked about. Do we have enough space? I think that's something we'd have to confirm, but I think we actually could build that on the other side of Craddock first, take that down, then build the structure, and then move the board and the students, correct. Those are all the details we'd have to move out, but I believe that would be the phasing of it. And then also to Ms. Schneider's point about, all these other projects, as we're collecting the money and working those, can we address the parking lots, HVAC? What's the timeline over the next 3 to 5 years as we're going through all this and building those? So it's not just the phasing of the building, it's the phasing of the triage list and really the infrastructure of the district to make sure we're on solid ground, which, we're not really right now with some of our buildings and our driveways and Greenman Way. Okay. Okay. Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I'd hoped for us to have this discussion and see how the board feels. And for what it's worth, I happen to agree, and I know, Mike Hayes and I and Brian Schiraldi, I feel like, going back to Mr. Aiken's point, we heard from the community, we had what was the master plan and building the high school and phasing and bringing those buildings up. And essentially, to me, Plan 2 with the triage list is our essential plan. So we tried the master plan, that didn't work, and now we're going to come back with what is the essential plan to move the district forward and address all of our true needs for our students in the learning environment. So thank you for the discussion, and thank you for the direction. And I'll be in touch with TDA tomorrow to start planning out the next semester of sort of internal design. Spring would probably be sort of community engagement. Obviously, with that target date of, we'd have to look at potentially next November is one of our only windows for a bond issue. So we have a lot of work to do between now and then. But I needed that direction and appreciate the discussion.
All right, Jared, I just would like policy for your many years of service to the district in various roles. And in addition to all your excellent skills with everything you've done, we appreciate your kindness and your patience. And I hope you'll stay in touch with Mary because she's
Oh,
really
yeah.
sad.
All of us,
course.
all of us.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Take a motion for adjournment, please.
Move.
Second.
All in
Aye.